What's up, guys? This is yours truly, Empress Chazzy Warmington, aka All That Jazz, aka Lupus Slayer. I really haven't been feeling well um, since probably like Friday of last week. Maybe actually started Thursday. So, excuse me for looking really rough right now. But I just wanted to pretty much give kind of like not even an introductory, but to, and it's not even an explanation. Um, I just wanted to, I guess, just be careful. Is protecting yourself. I guess that's the best thing way I could say is protect yourself. And a lot of times when things happen with people or to a person, it's not necessarily to test that person, but those who claim to be their friends or those who claim to be this type of person, that kind of person. You got a lot of people like, oh, I'm patient, I'm kind, I'm understanding, I'm forgiving, I'm compassionate, I'm a godly man, I'm a godly woman. Oh, I forgive and forget and all of this stuff. You got a lot of people that say things of that nature, but it's not always equivalently true. And you find out when you start going through things, and they actually find out when certain people are going through stuff. And a lot of times people fail the test. They always fail it. Anytime something happens with a person um, that you supposed to be close to or business colleague with or friends with, or have some type of mutual association with the person or understanding with the person, and then things start going awry. uh, a lot of times those things don't go awry or left field to necessarily test that person, but to test you, and for you to see how loyal, this is my rabbit down here playing, you are or is not to your word. And I know it's that we have this thing in society where people like to say things because it sounds good. We have people that, there's been many quotes that people have quoted it because it sounds good. It has a nice little ring to it. It seems to make sense at the time, but then when you get older, you start getting wiser, you start experiencing life more, and you just sit back and you really start thinking about certain things that certain quotes and things that people say. Excuse me. You start realizing it doesn't make any sense at all. That's if you have grown. That's the thing. Difference. If you have grown, you have to grow psychologically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally to really understand it. But I remember when I start going through health issues, when it started getting really severe, and I didn't at the time understand the severity of my health and the issues that I was be facing with my health. I could not comprehend and grasp psychologically what I was going through. Um, this phases that it was going to take me through, the journey that I was going to go through with it. And to be honest, I had no idea that the duration of it was going to be a lifetime duration. I had no clue. So for me, a lot of times I was in denial. I made my, I won't even say I made myself, because it wasn't that I necessarily made myself. It was just hard for me to accept. It was real a hard reality for me to accept, and I did not know how to process, psychologically process what was going on with me. I didn't know how to properly cope with what was going on with me. And I've always, from since I was a child, I've always pulled back, withdrew from people, shut down on people, go in my own little world and zone to deal with whatever I'm going through. That's just how I've always handled it, and I would just disappear, go incognito, cold turkey. no warnings, no, oh, let me tell you why. It was never like that. I just disappeared. And I've always dealt with things like that. I've learned better though, going through this particular situation with my health. I mean, learned to communicate. I was never good at communicating with my feelings and thoughts and emotions to people because I really never had that kind of support. I never had emotional support. I never had spiritual support on where people really would, even if they didn't understand, to just be empathetic, to um, have compassion. I never experienced that. So you know, from others. I mean, I get it from my mom, of course, and my son, and a couple of my, well, I won't even say a couple, but all of my best friends, which is three. My God, well, I might say four because that includes my God sister. But I never, and my God brother, but I never really had anyone growing up. I never, I never was taught how to cope with things, and I never knew and learned how to communicate effectively. And while I'm going through things, I just always shut down and go incognito, just completely disappear, because that was my only way of knowing how to deal with anything, uh, any kind of traumatic experiences, or any kind of negative or bad experiences that happened to me. That was my remedy, because that's the only way I knew how. Because that was the only way I could shield my emotions. So I thought, my feelings, and my sanity. Got to keep your sanity through it all. But I learned a better way of coping once I became older and going through this particular situation with my health. Um, I didn't understand, I didn't know the capacity and the depths of my illnesses, plural. So I have several chronic illnesses, and diseases that I'm battling. And I didn't understand and know much at all about these illnesses and chronic diseases and stuff. I didn't even, some of them I never heard of, like vasovagal syncope. I never heard of that. Vasovagal, I think that's how it's pronounced. I still to date don't even know how to really pronounce the word, but there were things that I was experiencing that had me very terrified. I mean, like on another level. I will give you an example. Um, don't you cry, don't you cry. I give you an example. My son and my mom, I used to not be able to. There was periods and times where I didn't recognize who they were, because I didn't understand that the health issues and these chronic diseases that I was battling, that some of them would cause me to have cognitive issues, memory issues as well. And I would be looking directly at my child and didn't recognize him. I would be looking at my mom and didn't recognize them, didn't know who they were. um, and it seemed like in those same seconds leading up to another minute that I didn't recognize them or couldn't recognize them, I would start back. I would be able to then recognize them and know who they are and everything, and would just have conversations with them, like start talking to them as if I never forgot who they were, like I didn't have that memory lapse. And I was dealing with a lot. And like I said, I didn't have the moral support that I needed. My ex, at first he was hanging in there, but then he gave up. And, you know, things happened in our relationship and we're no longer together out of 5 years. So I was dealing with that as well, coping with that, still am, because this was just recent. Well, technically December of last year, but we had been in contact every now and again, periodically with each other this year. But I just have shut things completely down because I need to heal emotionally from all of the trauma, all of the stuff that I experienced emotionally in the relationship, all the emotional abuse and the psychological abuse, the trauma, the psychological trauma, emotional, spiritual trauma that I endured in that relationship, in the relationship towards the latter end of our relationship. He wasn't like that before. He just decided it changed up. Or either that was always in him and it just started to surface. But needless to say, I was dealing with that as well. And so it was just a lot that I was dealing with psychologically and emotionally and spiritually and physically. So I'm having all of these issues going on at the exact same time. One not outweighing the other. They're all just vehement and they're relentless, nonstop. Every now and again I might get a break or two, may have a good, have a day where I don't have to deal with the effects or have flare ups and stuff like that. But every single day, though, I dealt with it psychologically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. Every single day, I may deal with it, and it's always aggressive. It's always vehement because, like for instance, like this office chair, it came in yesterday, and that I ordered, and I was doing something really basic, like putting the arms of it together, and just doing something that seems so simple, right? Because it really was. I had the chair laid to the side, and I just, you know, get the little L key, and I would just tighten it up. Just put the screw, tighten it. The screw was just going directly in, so all I had to do was tighten it up. And to most people, that is extremely simple. Children can do it. A 2-year-old child can do that and not really struggle or have no issues. But it started becoming a challenge for me, and my hands, if you would see how they were yesterday, they were so swollen that I could actually, how people do like this. I wouldn't have had to did that. I could have just put my hand on my chest and see how my hands are now. No, it would have been like my hands had swollen up so big they just looked like big clown hands. Like I had on these big clown gloves, these bulky gloves. They were really swollen just from doing something so simple. And that has been a constant struggle. Why are you standing up, little poo-poo? He's standing up. He want me to pick him up. He want to be picked up. This is my little co-host. Say hi. Say hi. He's shedding a little bit too. Not a little bit, a lot. But so I was, when I have moments like that all the time, and it always reminds me of, excuse me, of everything that I've been through in my life, not just from the car accident when everything just completely flared up, and that's when everything really just took a turn for the worse, or I say the more challenging in my health. That's when the disease, the lupus, SLL, disease with mixed connective tissue flared up, and the vasovagal syncope flared up, when rheumatoid arthritis flared, Raynaud's disease flared up, when chronic asthma and allergies flared up. Everything just flared up. Got damaged nerves in both hands and my legs. As a result of the car accident, my back and neck is messed up. because of it. I have to be really, really careful with my movements. My back can easily lock up on me just from doing the slightest thing, doing regular stuff, just regular things people do around the house. Walk, go stoop down, pick up something, get something out of your veggie trays, your fruit bins, and your refrigerator. Just doing common stuff like making up the bed, sweeping, vacuuming. Things like that can make my back lock up. So, I have to be really careful because my body is extremely delicate and very frail. And so when I started going through these issues, I really did not understand the severity of it. Excuse me. So I was continuing on, or at least trying to continue on, as if none of these things were existing. And that was where I went wrong, because then that's when I did become in a state of denial. That's when I did become in denial about what was going on with me. You want to get down? Okay. And so um, I had to, I had to swallow my pride, because that's also a sense of pride where you don't want to admit and acknowledge that you're now that you now have disabilities, and that it does affect you to the point where you cannot go out and do the things that you used to do before. Conventional work, go to the amusement park and ride roller coasters, which I love roller coasters. I'm a very adventurous person. I like to parasail. I like to jump out of airplanes and crazy stuff, wild stuff like that. But right now, I haven't jumped out of an airplane in years. I definitely haven't been on a roller coaster in years. So I don't know. I don't think that I could do that right now, because I still do have problems in my body, and I do have these flare ups, really aggressive, still in my body. And I still get extremely lethargic and exhausted. I mean, exhaustion on another level. I mean, it be vehement. The exhaustion be so bad that I can't even lift my head off the pillow. I can't even talk. Like, I be so exhausted, I can't even muster up the word, mustered up the words of just, hi, how are you? Simple stuff, right? But those simple things, once I started dealing with health issues, these health issues and chronic illnesses and diseases became very difficult. And a lot of people did pull away from me. And in a way, I can understand why, because of the way that I handled it. But at that time, I was going through so much, and I didn't even understand what I was going through, because my diagnosis for certain things, particularly the chronic diseases and illnesses outside of the asthma and the allergies that me have been battling. Other things were not showing as aggressive, or wasn't able to be exact diagnosed until I went through a series of testing. Had to go through a lot of series of specialists, and it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years. It took actually 3 years just to definitely verbatimly identify that I actually have lupus, SLE, with mixed connective tissue disease. They saw the mixed connective tissue disease, but you can have mixed connective tissue disease and have it with fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, or some other issues. But they had to make sure it wasn't any of those, because At first, it seemed like I was suffering with fibromyalgia. Then it seems like I had multiple sclerosis. It seems like I had um, um, I forgot the other one, acute something, but it wasn't any of those. It ended up being the lupus with the SLE, which is the systemic lupus e something. What however you pronounce that long e word, but that's when and even with the diagnosis, finally having a diagnosis and the esophageal syncope diagnosis, I still didn't understand the effects that it would continue to have on my person and on my life and on my existence and on my being. So I didn't understand the effects that it would have on my entire livelihood until I realized I had to literally. It was just like one day I was just. I remember I just empty. I felt so empty, and I cried. I literally had an emotional breakdown, and I went into a great state of depression. Like I was severely depressed, um, chronically depressed to the point where I was even contemplating suicide because I didn't want to live in pain. Um, I didn't want to live my life sick and being in pain. I didn't want my son and my mom to have to every day see me when they wake up. They have to see me suffering in my body, seeing me sick. Um, and the part that really just gave me so much strength to fight is when I saw how it was really affecting my son. Um, my son, I would wake up and my son would be in my bedroom laying at the foot of my bed on the floor. And he wouldn't get up until I got up. Well, it all depends. He would stay. What happens is when I would go to sleep, he would sneak in the room. Well, not even sneak in the room, he would just come in the room. And he would make himself stay up as long as he could. I didn't know I was going to have this going on, so I'm trying to be strong for you guys. But he would try to make himself stay up as long as he could to watch me because he was afraid that I was going to go away in my sleep. But he thought that I would die in my sleep, or if he was gone away to school. So when I would wake up, it would normally be like 12, 11 in the morning, 12, sometimes 1. And my son is in my room. And I'm like, why are you not in school? And I remember he just broke down and he was like, I'm not going to school and come home and you're gone. And that just did a lot to me emotionally, where I was like, I can't give up. I can't. And that gave me the strength to continue to fight because I really had contemplated, I had planned it out and everything. I was going to go ahead and just take myself out because I felt like I was too much of a burden to my son and to my mom because they have been primarily my caretakers while I'm going through all of this. And the thing about it is, I don't look like I'm sick. Like I don't look like I have these issues because I managed to get around and do things and stuff like that. But those are not often moments. Those are not regular moments for me. Those are not like something that I could do on a daily basis, to just be able to get up and go and stuff like that. I have very few days of that in a week. Sometimes there's times like I think it was like a couple of weeks ago. I was sick for an entire week. I was so weak and couldn't get out of bed in so much chronic pain. Because that's another thing with the chronic disease is that I get these excruciating pains throughout my body. Get these bad migraines as well, and I don't like medications. I took myself off of medications. I was about probably on 38 medications where all of this started. And I'm on nothing now but just vitamins. I don't take any kind of prescription medications at all right now at this moment, except probably some ibuprofen sometimes because the pain does get that severe where my body numbs up and I can't breathe. The pain be so severe I start suffocating. Especially when my back pain gets so bad, I start suffocating because I can't breathe because of the pain. It compressed. It's like it feel like I'm being compressed. So I was going through all of these things, and many people didn't understand what I was going through, and I could not even verbally explain to them because at that time I really didn't know. I could tell them symptoms like, oh, I'm experiencing this, that, and other, but I did not know that this was something that I was going to be dealing with for life. Like, this was a complete life change for me. And I, like I said, I always shut down. That was the only way I knew how to handle and cope with anything that I was dealing with in my life. So I did shut down on people. Um, but I was also letting people know because I was very transparent. Anybody that goes back and look on my Facebook page from years ago, you would see I was posting pictures. I was doing my journey to wellness videos. I was doing that. I had stopped doing that because it gets exhausting. Like I couldn't even keep up. Like even now, I can plan to do stuff, but it doesn't mean that I would be able to follow through with it because I'm still dealing with these chronic illnesses and diseases, and the effects that it have is I can't control them. I can try to minimize them, manage them, but um, I've tried a lot of stuff, and a lot of people have been like, "Oh, you need to do CBD oils, and oh, you need to eat holistic. Oh, you need." I do all of that. I was doing that before I even got sick. See, that's the biggest misconception that people have about chronic illnesses and diseases, or anything people deal with in their health. They assume it's because of a person's diet, or or they didn't take care of their health. It was none of that. I mean, people, anybody who knew me before then, I would jog. Like I would jog 4-7 miles per day, and I was doing this 4 days, 5 days a week, sometimes even 7 days a week. I was in the gym working out. I would go swim like 40 laps because the pool was that the pool, in order for me to even get the size of Olympic pool, to get aside that side, I had to swim at least, I think it's like 5 laps just to make up 1 lap in an Olympic sized pool, because it was just a basic community pool. So I would swim like 40 laps, and I was doing this religiously. So it was, and I was not eating, just going out there picking out and getting big steaks and potatoes and eating cakes galore, even though I was baking them and cooking them. I was eating most of them. Most times I cooked them for other, for at the time my ex and my son. I would cook for my son and the guys and stuff when they watch the football basketball games and stuff like that. I would always cook wings and pizzas and stuff like that, and I wouldn't even hardly ever really eat any of that stuff. I would probably, I would always eat like a salad, or I have me up my veggie sub, you know and so um I was already eating healthy prior to all of this stuff happening, and um having my herbs and spices and alkaline water, my infused waters. Just I was already eating properly for the most part. I had a healthy lifestyle. Is the best way to put it, plain and simple. My lifestyle at that time was healthy, and at this time, it's still healthy. That's my lifestyle. It's not a trend or a phase, or I'm just doing it because it seemed popular, or a lot of people getting into that. No, I've been doing it. I was always like that all my life, into fitness. Into I was very athletic. I played football in high school, ran tracks. I mean, like, I've always been an athletic person, so that was never the issue. um but I had this. It took me a long time to forgive myself, because I know that a lot of people got let down, and my I see my fault was not knowing how to. I didn't know how to cope, so I didn't know how to really explain things to people. Um, I didn't know how to let them know. Look, I have memory issues. I mean, I forget. I don't remember telling you that, or I don't remember talking to you about that. Like at that moment, probably wouldn't remember. But then I like to call it kind of like I call it elapsed memory, where I may not remember it right then and there, but then when I have time to sit and process it, or even when I'm not even thinking about it, I'll just start remembering stuff that I wasn't able to remember before. Then it done. I'd be like, oh shoot, I wish I remembered it then, because then I could have told them. But I don't have no control over when I will and won't remember things a lot of times. Sometimes I may remember things right away, and sometimes I may not. And I found out that that's because of the lupus. It causes memory issues and cognitive issues. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I would forget how to spell apple, or I would forget how to spell orange or blue, forget how to spell my own name. Like seriously, like I have those struggles still today. I still struggle a lot of times. Like I forget my frame of thought. I forget how to pronunciate words. 1 minute I could be extremely articulate, vocal, pronounce words proficiently, think sharply, and then this next minute, just like I'll talk to you now, then the next minute go by, I'll be like struggling to pronunciate words, be struggling to process the words in my mind to make a sentence, and for it to make it sound logical, rational, to make it sound understandable. Um, and I can't control that. So my apology have always been that I didn't know how to express what was going on with me, but I would never apologize for being sick. I can't apologize for that. I can't let anybody hold me guilty or hold that over my head, because I was not able to respond to them, because I was, because I don't want to say I was, but because I am, you know, I have issues. I have health chronic health issues and diseases that causes me to have problems with my cognitive, with my memory, with my mobility, with my health that I cannot control. And I cannot apologize and won't apologize for that. Um, and with that stated is it was many people that I met throughout this time that was like, oh, I love the Lord. Oh, I'm godly and this, that. But I believe part of this happening was to show them that they really aren't who they say they are. They aren't that loving, kind person they think they are. They're not as forgiving as they say that they are and think that they are. They're not understanding like they think and say and claim they are. They're not compassionate as they claim and think that they are. And there were just things that were going on, and I was still dealing with identity theft while I was going through all of this. I finally got all of that situated. Yay! Finally was able to get my first credit card ever. As I never did credit cards. I would always be approved of them, especially when I was in college. Oh my gosh, they kept sending me credit cards. I said, y'all send me another credit card. I said, I'm going to sue y'all asses, and I'm going to own the credit card company. They stopped sending them to me too. I never received any more after those. Excuse me, after that. So I finally, in my 40s, have got to my very first credit card because I never really financed anything. I financed a car once in my life that I can recall. No, twice. I paid that car off and I should have kept it. But I traded it in. I know why I traded it in because I was being threatened by a now former employer that the government shut down, the IRS shut down because they were doing tax evasion and doing crazy stuff like that. Had I known, I would have kept my freaking Camaro. I used to love my Camaro. Shoot, that was my baby. That car is paid for and everything. Shoot. But I had to I ended up trading it in and got a car because I needed transportation for work because there was nowhere near on the bus line at all where I was residing at the time. And then that happened with the company where it was just a lot of stuff that transpired. So I never really had to finance anything. So I never had credit established because I never financed stuff. Never took out loans or anything. So even when I was in school, I didn't even do no student loans. I paid right out of my pocket. How much is it? Okay, this is how much I have to pay every month. Okay, so I paid it out of pocket. I didn't do any student loans. So needless to say, I finally got my first credit card. So it's like I'm literally building up from ground zero as if I'm 18 years of age, finishing high school, and now started my journey to establish my credit to what man-made establishment of credit is. I think if a person does not create credit and debt, they should have perfect credit. You should be glad they don't create credit and debt. But in this world, they want you to create debt. They want you to create credit, not to show that you're credit worthy. That's not really why. No, they want to keep you in bondage. That's what it's all about. But that's on a difference. I'm talking about that too. So you guys are going to have to tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays when I talk about these things on my YouTube channel. So, but I was going through a lot. And so that showed me, I believe y'all also wanted to show me, the universe is showing me how people are very contradictory of themselves, how they say one thing but they don't mean it. They do the opposite. And I really believe that through me going through that a lot of people was tested and they don't realize that they were tested and they flunked miserably. They flunked the test big time, and they're not going to see it that way, and a lot of them ain't going to admit to it. They don't have to. You got to please me. You got to answer to whoever you worship and whoever you call your creator, your divine one, or whatever, whoever you know. But I don't apologize for being sick. I don't apologize for any of the things that these illnesses and diseases have caused me to have, that caused me not to be able to be there for people like I wanted to and desired to and said that I would, and wasn't able to obligate myself like I desired to and like I said I would, and made a vow, and gave them my word to do. But I couldn't help what was going on with me, and again, I did not understand what was going on with me at that time. So with that said, I'm happy with my life, regardless of what is or isn't going right, or going in the way that I would like for it to go. I'm happy with my life because that was a major hurdle and barrier for me to get over, is to forgive myself and to not allow others to make me feel bad or condemn me or try to make me feel guilty because I couldn't do things that I desired to do that had nothing to do with me not wanting to. I was going through a lot, and the thing about it is, like I stated earlier in the vid, things got worse. I was already dealing with health issues that I didn't realize the severity of them. But once I got in a car accident, and then other issues flared up, and then those issues was all had magnified and blew up, as it really took a turn. It really took things to another level. And when I was able to cope and manage prior to the car accident, to a degree, I was still struggling, but it wasn't as bad. 2012, 2013, I was struggling with the cognitive and struggling with the memory, but I discovered that actually came from medications that I had been taking from other health issues that I had before, and I didn't know that those medications caused those side effects because it didn't list it. It just so happened that I happened to see it through a report with the CDC, and so I discovered that. That's why I was having those issues at that time, and I didn't, because I just didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me. But then when the car accident happened in 2014, it's like everything just completely changed. So all I'm saying is, people, love yourself, and remember that sometimes things that you go through in life, it's not necessarily to test you, but to test those who claim that they're for you and that they're there for you and that they this and they that, and they so holy and they so divine, they're so loving, so caring, so understanding, and all of that stuff. And they discovered they're not, they're really not. And so I'm just grateful because I'm in support groups, because even though these diseases that I have, chronic illnesses and diseases that I have, chronic diseases, are not acknowledged and have nearly as much attention as heart disease and breast cancer, especially breast cancer. Breast cancer, you always hear about it, but you rarely hear about lupus. You don't hear about vasovagal syncope at all, vasovagal syncope. You don't hear about Raynaud's disease. You don't hear about these kind of issues on a regular basis, and people are not familiar with it. You can mention breast cancer awareness. Everybody know about breast cancer awareness. Heart disease, they automatically, sugar diabetes, or, they automatically. But when you start talking about lupus, especially the fact that when they do hear about lupus, they don't realize that there's 5 different types of lupus. They don't realize there's levels to lupus. They don't realize that lupus causes memory issues and cognitive issues, and it can cripple you, disable you physically as well as cognitively. They don't, and with your emotions, with your memory, they don't realize that, they don't know. So get down, stop. Sorry, he getting into stuff. So with my Gloves On campaign, it actually bring awareness about these issues that I battle in my health, because I'm living it. I experience it on a regular basis. I know what it does, how it can affect the body, how it does affect the body. And I'm just so blessed and so grateful to be alive still, because my rheumatologist and my neurologist, actually my whole team of doctors, gastrologists, all of them, they told me, had I not have taken care of my health and and had the healthy lifestyle that I do have, that it would have definitely taken me out. Because there, as sick as I be, as me become, and get because of it, and I have a healthy lifestyle. Imagine if I did not have a healthy lifestyle, it would have definitely taken me out. I was ashamed of my weight gain because, like I said, the medications that I was on. Understand, doctors have to prescribe you medications by law. That's, if they don't, they could be sued for malpractice and stuff. So they have to prescribe you medications, up to you to take them. And some of the medications I would take, some I didn't take because of the side effects, that in the way that it was having me acting and having me hallucinating and sleepwalking. I never sleepwalked till I started taking certain medications, especially the gabapentin, however you pronounce that word. I started sleepwalking and started having hallucinations and stuff, so I stopped taking that medication for inflammation of my back and stuff, because it was causing me to have issues in howling and acting crazy, like a wild crazy woman. Somebody who's strung out on drugs and in the street, just out of their mind. That's the way the medications, not just that combined with some of the other medications, just had me delusional and had me acting, irrationally and insane. So, of course, I wasn't going to continue to take those kind of medications. So I start weaning myself off. I start researching and start finding ways to try to deal with it. But a lot of the medications that I was taking, especially when I would get infusions, it has a lot of steroids in it. But I am glad to say that I went from the medicines that I was taking brought me up to 215 pounds. I now weigh 176. And I'm keeping on going down, 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 down here. But yeah, so um, I was dealing with a lot. So but you can't beat yourself up. Don't keep beating yourself up. Somebody's gonna be there for you. Let them be there for you. If they don't want to be there for you, keep it moving. Don't let nothing or nobody stop your life. But I found out, I discovered that a lot of people fail the test and they don't realize it. But I'm gonna continue on living. I'm gonna continue on being happy, and I'm gonna continue on loving myself. I'm gonna continue to grow. I'm gonna continue to become a better person each and every day. As long as we live, we have an opportunity to become better people, and that's what I'm going to do. And I really appreciate you all for listening. I probably lost frame of thought in some of the in some of this video, because I feel like it was something that I was supposed to have mentioned and I can't remember what it is. um, and we all have that, but not when it's on a regular, constant, continuous basis. I have that all the time. We could be in the middle of a conversation, I completely zone out, forget what we're talking about, forget you even talking to me and everything. Seriously, I'm just being real about it. But yeah, I'm glad, I'm happy because there's people in the support group. That's what I was gonna say. When I started going start getting involved more hands on, and what was like really weird, I got to say this before I forget. Before I even knew that I had lupus, I was already supporting the lupus awareness cause. And Bo Tilly Williams, I pray that I never forget her. She has always, I will always cherish that lady, because she was the one that told me to go get checked. And I remember when I was at the event, the celebrity basketball charitable event called Balling for Lupus Loves. when I was at her charitable event for lupus awareness, I was not feeling well. I was sick. I was actually swollen. Like I was not feeling right at all. Little did I know, my hair was shedding and everything. That's another thing with lupus. It makes your hair shed like you on chemo. Um, and it was shed a lot. Like it was coming out like handfuls. But she told me to get checked for lupus, get checked, and checked again. And I actually did that, and that's how it was discovered that that is one of the chronic diseases and illnesses that I have and that I've been battling, and why I have been so sick and having so many cognitive issues and memory issues and exhaustions and extreme chronic pains throughout my body, not just in one area of my body. You don't know, this pain shoots all the way from my head all the way to my feet. A lot of times, it doesn't just hurt just my leg, won't just hurt, or my arm won't just hurt. No, my whole body. I would be in excruciating pain. So, I really give homage to her and shout out to her for encouraging me to go and for having events that bring awareness to lupus, and because it's one hell of a disease. It's one hell of a disease, and then it's not just a disease; it's a chronic disease, and it you feel it too. I'm like, it is a perfect chronic illness, invisible disease, chronic illness, chronic disease, an invisible illness, an invisible disease, chronic disease. It is definitely. But the support groups that I've been in, I started in the groups back in 2018. And since I've been in that group with a combination of males and females, there have been over 30 people that have died from the type of lupus that I have. Or, or the next was this in the, uh, the the Nerifis. I forgot. Dang it, I was right on the tip of my tongue, on my brain. I mean, I forgot. But the nearer this, it's another starts with the N something. That if anybody have that kind of that type of lupus, they 9 times out of 10 we get the systemic lupus erythematosus, whatever, however you pronounce that darn word, because those are the two most aggressive lupus types of lupus. And the skin lupus is very aggressive too, and it causes all kinds of issues. So there's different types of lupus, and over 30 people have died, and the ones that have died from one of those three types of lupus, most of them um, from SLE lupus, but the rest of them the other two. So that just shows you how deadly it is, and it has been over 30 people. Okay, put their names. We always do. We always do a memory for them in the support group and stuff like that. Those who were in the group and that passed away, we always the group administrators. I mean the group's administrators, support group administrators always make sure they always acknowledge those who was a part of the group that have died, unfortunately, from battling not just lupus, also any other chronic illness disease, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, IBM, which inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, um, other chronic diseases and issues around, there's so many. I don't know why I always get brain freeze. It's just so many, because it's like over 100 different types of chronic illness disease. I can't remember all of those. I remember the main ones, the common ones, but I don't remember a lot of the other ones. But there are so many other chronic illnesses and diseases, deadly ones, aggressive ones out there that people have no idea about. They don't get any recognition. They don't be really talked about. You don't hear about them in news. You don't hear about them really on medical boards and the medical arena on their websites and platforms. You don't really hear them talking about them. So I'm going to be talking about them, and that's what I'm going to be doing with my part of the things that I would be doing on my platform. So I really appreciate your support. You all are welcome to go to my website, www.z for zebra, H for hotel, E for elephant, E for elephant, N for November, LLC.com. Right on the home page, when you scroll down just a little bit, you will see where it says Gloves On campaign. Right up under there is a donation button. Please make a donation towards my campaign. To I want to travel and bring awareness, because it's really to these chronic illnesses, diseases. And not only that, but to help people, I want to have a homestead where I can have garden and herbs and stuff that people with chronic illness diseases can get for a reasonable price. And I just don't want it to be in one state. I want to be able to do this worldwide. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's going to take finances. So I really will appreciate your support for it. And I never lie about support. One thing about donations that I always remind people of, part of donations do be towards the operation of whatever organization or cause it is. But my goal is to not use 40+% of it in administrations. I mean, I don't want to do that. If I'm going to be doing that, then I need to be paying people who's out there farming and planting the seeds and tilling the land and stuff like that, but not just to do paperwork, make copies, make phone calls. I shouldn't have to spend that kind of money for that. I would so much rather try to use interns from colleges or volunteers to do as much of the administration part as possible, if possible, so that I can use as much of the donations towards the actual cause itself versus administration of the cause to operate and run the cause. But so I always be very upfront about that. Not only to make a donation, but if there's a button that you can click to sign my petition. When you click on that button, it's going to take you to the change.org page for my Gloves On campaign, and you can sign my petition to have the Chronic Disease and Illness and Disability Support Act bill to be passed. So please sign it. Please sign it. It's free to do. You don't have to make a donation to do that. And I will say, please never ever make any donations on change.org on my campaigns, because I never get it. What they do is they take the money and they use it to campaign my petition. Even though I opted out, they still do it anyway. So please never ever do that. That's why I have a separate donation button. Never make a donation through change.org, because I would never see a dime of it, and I can't use it for the cause. Okay, but anyway, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I thank you for listening to me for an hour babble on. God bless, one love, peace. Y'all have a good one.